Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Global Nomads podcast. Today we have Wunmi Adekanmbi. She wears many hats. One of them is she's a principal at QM Consult, which is a boutique trade firm that helps facilitate trade between Africa and Canada. At the same time, she's an executive director at the Immigrant Techies Network. And we're very happy to have her here and hear her story. Wunmi, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Samir. Glad to be here.
Wunmi, let's start with your journey. Tell us about your immigrant story.
So I'm originally from Nigeria. And back in Nigeria, I was in academia. So I was an aspiring professor. I was on my way to becoming a professor, doing a PhD and teaching, doing research in biochemistry.
In biochemistry?
Yeah. So that was what I thought I was coming to do in Canada, because, there was a need for people with chemical high level degrees in chemical sciences and biochemistry, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I was a primary applicant for my family, which meant, I felt like Canada is looking for me. Like Canada must be really looking for me. So, and that was the plan A. That was what I thought I was coming here to do. Mm-hmm. However, it became one of those typical immigrant stories where you're coming in high and then your career takes a nosedive once you get into Canada. So I tried for 3 years to get back into academia, and they were interested. I would talk to, because, and you have to take note that it's a research-focused, laboratory-based research-focused kind of venture. Mm-hmm. So that is capital-intensive. You need a lot of reagents and equipment and all of that.
And at the same time, so you need to have government funds coming into that to make sure that it's all...
Exactly. So at that point, the labs, they will be like, yeah, we like your work. Come join us. Wait until September when I'm sure if I've got my grants renewed. And then they will say, when it's September, they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't renewed, or I only have enough for the people I already have in my lab. So it became a thing that lasted 3 years. So at some point, yeah.
That's quite a tenor.
Oh, yeah, those were not easy days. So, it got to a point where I then kind of had a conference with myself mm-hmm. to talk about, okay, what other things do I bring to the table? What are my other skills? Because even when I was in academia back in Nigeria, I was leading departmental activities. I was organizing seminars. I was doing project management, change management, even though my title did not call it that. So I was facilitating changes, introducing digital products to the university and things like that. So that was when I then reinvented myself for project management.
Okay.
But even before I could get that, I eventually got a job with a laboratory, an environmental lab that was supposedly a professional job because they wanted you to have a degree in chemistry, but they were paying you like you were an entry-level high school student.
Yes, I see that quite often, where they want you to have 15 years of experience, but the pay is like you just finished university.
Like this one was worse.
Oh. Because
it's a core science kind of work. You can't do it if you don't have at least a degree. Mm-hmm. But they not to bash any company, but you just look around and there are so many immigrants in that company, and that's a tell already. So mm-hmm. if a place that requires high expertise, but they pay low, and then you notice that there are many more immigrants than are not, it already tells you something.
Yeah.
That they tend to low pay immigrant professionals whose skills they need because they know that maybe there are not a lot of options out there. And so I did start at entry level with that company, but it was within that company I was able to reinvent myself. So I did project management, and then I evolved into change management, digital transformation. And most of these things They were not even functions that existed. I created them. So I will look
at the organization level, you mean?
Yes. So in the organization, if I notice that the way we are operating, there's a gap here. So I'll go train myself on that thing and then come back and implement it in the organization. So it was my way of, I guess I couldn't help myself really when it comes to finding a gap and creating a solution for it. It's like I can't help myself. I have always been like that, even as a teenager. If I notice that, why can we fix this? Can we change this? So that's what I did. I'll go and do the training, and then I'll come back and say, we need to redo how we, let's think about digitizing this. Or I created training modules. I will just say, I'm hosting a session. I'm going to host that team on how you can both work together better. So I practically just built everything. Everything you see that I do right now, I had to build it from scratch. Nothing was handed to me.
Dear friends, I would like to take a quick pause right now to say thank you to Sergey from New West Video for helping out with all of our visuals today. And if you want to find out more, there's a link below. And I would also like to say thank you to Angelica for helping with all the social media marketing. And guess what? There's also a link below to find out more. And also, one favor from you. Please like and subscribe. And share the video with your friends and family. So while you were building and rebuilding yourself, how did you come to the conclusion of the transferable skills? So you said you looked, you had an internal conference, as you mentioned, and had a discussion, what particular know-hows that you had, you thought, okay, they would be good in terms of doing something new. So what was the thought process behind? Because why I'm asking is there are probably a lot of people listening to us that are going through the same stage. They're saying, okay, I'm unable to find something in what I have been doing for the last 10 years back home. And now I need to reinvent myself. And they're thinking how to start reinvention. What kind of thought process you went through that could help them?
Yeah, really. It's the way I said it. I started thinking outside of how my function is defined. And then started thinking about what I actually did and accomplished. So I was an academic staff. And if you think only in that if you think about that narrowly, you only think about teaching and research.
Yeah.
Which was the primary, of course. But I was also kind of leading the department. I led a team. I chaired projects. I organized some seminars. I did facilitating between two different institutions to come together with ideas. So those are event management, project management. The university was moving. We were physically relocating from one city to another. I led that. I led the whole transition. So that's change management.
Yes.
Even if that was not my title, but I needed to create a plan and follow it and create a plan for different units and execution plan, monitor it, make sure everything landed where it should. So it was a mix of project management and change management. There was a project where we had a record system that was manual, and I was able to create a digital replica for that where this was about 15 years ago, 15, 16, 17 years ago. So you can imagine where things were at in terms of everything was paper, including students' grades, and it was not even properly stored. You couldn't retrieve it well. It wasn't automatically calculated. So I did all of that. So that's digital transformation, even though nobody called it a digital transformation project. So it's really taking stock of the value you have brought, not what your job title was.
I like that. It's not about what it was on paper, but what all the additional thing. Because we all at work, we do something additional in addition to what our core functions are.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it could be even as small as organizing, let's say, a Christmas party for example, right? Like if you're on the chair of organizing a Christmas party, that's already event management to your point, right?
Oh yeah.
So you already
totally.
have a little bit of experience, and you could leverage that experience for something else. So yeah, I like that a lot.
And another interesting thing also is that no matter where your domain expertise is, there are some skills that just cut across. So if you're in healthcare or energy or tech or whatever, there are some things that cut across. So if you're an accountant, for example, there's no industry that does not use an accountant. And if you're a marketer and you want to upskill yourself into digital marketing or something, there is no industry that would not use it, that does not need it. So that awareness of what is happening around, what's being disrupted, what's the landscape, what are the signals in terms of where is the future of work looking like, helps you also position yourself. Yeah. So it's not just looking inwards, it's also looking around. So you look inwards for your own skill set, your own personality, things you bring to the table, but you also look around. You do a signal hunting of what's happening, what's on the news, what's changing, and then find the alignment. I do a lot of career coaching, so this comes up a lot. Yeah.
But career coaching is not your main thing, right? Like career coaching is mostly kind of you're just giving back to the community type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, so that's one of those things actually. That career coaching is a good example. When I was a teenager, when I was a late teen, I started a teenagers club for younger teens.
Okay.
So I did not call myself a coach, but that's what I was doing. So I will ask them what their goals were, how they want to achieve it. What do you think you can be doing today that will help you to where you need to be? I can be your accountability partner. And in that culture, there were kids that would not open up to their parents, but they would come talk to me. So I was doing that, even though I didn't call it coaching, but I was doing that. And also as a teacher, university lecturer, I was much more interested in the holistic wellness of my students than just their academic achievement. So if I noticed that a student if their grade was beginning to drop, I will schedule a call with them. Like, what's going on in your life? Sometimes they tell me it's my health. Sometimes it's my parents. So it's more than just teaching. So that's one of those things where I never gave it a name. It was just something I did. So, but now that I do that with immigrant professionals, like helping them chart their course and understand where they're coming from, design a specific plan. So it has morphed into that, even though I've always done it.
And kind of help them package themselves as well. Just because I assume it's always good to be able to put it in terms that other people understand it as well, to make sure that everyone is aligned.
Yeah. So we call it, what I like to call it is crafting your unique value proposition. So we understand that when we're talking in terms of a business, a product, that what's the unique value proposition of this product? What sets it aside? What makes it unique from every other thing? So then I flip it for people and I say, whether you like it or not, you are a product. So if you're upskilling yourself, if you're taking courses, so that what? So that you will be attractive to an employer who then buys you, you know what I mean?
Or rents.
In exchange for money. So value creation, value exchange. So you are a product. And because we do a lot of product development training already. So I then say, think about the same mindset you have around your product development process, how you start with empathy, how you think about what your user needs. Now think about the employer as the user.
Yeah.
So if you think about it that way, how would you present yourself? Would you not want to care what they need, what's keeping them up at night? Behind every job posting, there is somebody who's not sleeping at night. Behind every job posting, there's somebody that's like, I can't do this by myself anymore. And it could be because of a good thing or a bad thing. So they got new projects. They're like, oh yes, we got this new project, but oh my gosh, where are we going to find people to do this?
Yeah.
They can't sleep. Or this thing is going down. I need somebody to rectify this so that we don't lose this business. They can't sleep. So behind every job posting, there is somebody with sleepless nights. So if as a job seeker, you start thinking like that, you present yourself in a different way.
This is the first time I hear that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people that do talk about, pursuing a new career or looking for a job and giving advice, but flipping it and calling it that there's someone at the end of the other side that is looking for someone.
Oh, yeah.
It is very important.
Absolutely.
Because as much as you need them, they need you as well. It's just how to align them, which is, how would I find out if I don't know? Like, what is your suggestion to understand what is keeping them awake at night?
So number one, you have to be curious enough to even want to know. Because a typical job seeker is just like, they're looking for 5 years of experience in this, check, I have it. They're looking for someone with this certification, check, I have it, good, I'm applying.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to read between the lines about what is it, in the job description itself, there might be some information, or you go search and do news. What's the new thing that's happening with that company? Did they just win a round of investment? Did they expand? Did they acquire one more company? Are they merging? Are they downsizing? Like, whatever information you gather there can give you an insight into why they need that role.
Yes.
And when you get to that phone call, that first call stage also, it's good to ask, why are they filling this role? Was somebody there before? Now they're leaving? Is it a newly created role? Like, why? Why is this role open?
Yeah.
So a lot of curiosity. And that's why networking should not be until you want to apply to a company. So if you've been building relationships in general, and then a role opens in a particular company, you can reach out to somebody you already have built a relationship with there to say, not even give me a reference. It's more like, why do you think that role is open? What team is it under? How does that team work? What do you think is the purpose? So you gather information. You have to be genuinely curious. Like, you can't pretend to be curious.
Yes.
You can't act like you're curious. You have to really be interested in knowing and find ways to know. So it's not a checkbox like, oh, I'm just going to read their website. It's good to read the website, but you should also read what other people are saying about them, not only what they are saying about themselves.
It's, if you look at, from the conversations that I've had, at least, the amount of people who even read the website is, I would say, maybe 10% of all the applicants.
Yeah.
And only 1% of that 10% actually the ones that, like yourself, like you mentioned, are curious and asking the right questions. And, they always suggest, ask good questions at the end of the interview. And I think this would be a great question to ask. It's like, why you're filling this role right now? Did someone leave the company? Are you growing? Are you expanding? If someone left, why did they leave? If you're expanding, what happened that you were expanding? Did you win, like you said, a new contract or something else? Or whatever is the reason, right? But,
or maybe there's already someone, they just need one more person doing the same thing. So all of which is information that would be useful for you in how you prepare yourself as well.
Oh, that is perfect. And but let's go back to you mentioned you don't only look inwards, you also look outwards. And we talked about, off camera, but we talked about utilizing immigrant networks. And this is also part of a skill set an immigrant would bring. And not exactly skill set, but part of their value prop. And why would you say that would be a value prop for the organization that is looking to hire someone? Why is it immigrant networks a good thing to have?
So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. So continuing on my story, so I got into project management, change management, digital transformation, and I got curious about the tech ecosystem because honestly, this is how it started. My friends that were in Nigeria would tell me, we're coming to Canada, but we're not coming to Alberta. that we heard that your glory days are over. You know, it was around, you know how the
oil and
boom
gas,
and
the boom
bust.
and bust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were like, no, we're not coming. We're going to Ontario. We're going to BC. And I was just like, no, you should come to Alberta. We have a lot more going. And then they would say, what more? And I'd be like, what more? So, so I was just out of curiosity. I wanted to know what we were doing as a province to diversify the economy. So I started just looking around, attending events. That was how I stumbled into the tech ecosystem. That, so wait, we have this strategy. We are investing in this. We have all of this great energy in this space. And so I really enjoyed being in the tech ecosystem because the energy is so different. I love the openness, the willingness to collaborate, to explore things. Because I'm coming from a background where I had to be the one that brought things and push for, let's do things in a different way, in an innovative way. And here is a group of people that's their default. So mind blown. I was so excited. But after a while, I noticed like, why are there not more newcomers in this space? So that's one. And then the second thing is, almost every event I will go to, they will talk about how they couldn't find talent for the tech ecosystem. They'll be like, we need talent. Talent is a great pillar, and we can't do this without talent. And I'm just sitting there wondering, like, what do you mean you can't find talent? I know where talent is.
There's quite a lot of talent if you go out and look for talent.
Yeah, I know where talent is because immigrants economic immigrants particularly, are tech biased. That's what
What do you mean by economic immigrants?
So we have, depending on how you come in. So if you come in as a skilled worker, where like it's not for asylum seeking, it's not for student, even student, I'll still categorize that. But they are not immigrants yet, they are students.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean, in the sense that the immigration point system, so people that have to come in using that immigration point system, it favors people with science and tech backgrounds.
Yes.
Like if you're already an engineer, you're scoring high. I was telling you why I thought that, Canada must be looking for me, because I scored high because I already had advanced degree in science. So so that means we already have that. We already have people that think technically, that have engineering backgrounds, computer science, but they are driving Uber. Not that it's wrong to drive Uber, but we just don't need engineers driving Uber. We need engineers being engineers, So they are driving Uber. They are stocking shelves at Walmart because I know that because I did that too. And then here we are. We need them for the tech ecosystem. And we're saying we can't find talent. So for me, it was just like a no-brainer. Like, how can people not see this? How can people not see this? That we have a pot of gold somewhere and we're just sitting on it like it's a stool.
And it's not like there's a huge wall between it. It's just to turn around and look at it.
I know. So, and that's exactly what I did. So that's why I built Immigrant Techies Network. That was the purpose. So Immigrant Techies. Right?
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Quite straightforward.
Yeah, exactly. Because I just feel like on one ground, people need to know that there is something else that's happening in Alberta. And then on the other hand, we actually need the talent to drive the digital economy forward. So I saw that gap and I just stepped into it and said, I'm going to create something here, activate the immigrant ecosystem to see that there's more other than healthcare and oil and gas. So because if you didn't get a job in oil and gas, you're going back to school to do nursing. That's what most people were doing. But there are options. There are other things. Every industry is being disrupted. So the digital economy is not going to stop. It's not going to stop because it's going to continue changing status quo.
Oh, yeah.
So we need people there. So, yeah. Now, back to the original question you asked. I needed to create that to establish that background of how I came into working with immigrant communities.
Okay, yeah.
So now, for a company, right now, it's more around we're trying to convince them that people don't really need Canadian work experience. They've been vetted because the immigration process vetted them. They make sure they had the training, the experience. They even make sure you're healthy enough. They do medicals.
Oh, yeah.
If you are too old, you won't come in. They need you to be young and agile. So all of that is there. We're still trying to convince employers to hire immigrants. And now I'm saying, even if you're not thinking about that, think about the markets these people can open for you. So as a company, you have a service or a product, and all your customers are in the US, and then Trump happens to you, and here you are looking like you don't have options, and you have immigrants on your team that have strong networks, strong business networks, strong community networks back home, not just here, but also back home. So what would it look like? Just imagine for a second, what would it look like if we can activate the immigrant networks we have in Canada as trade channels?
That's a pretty good point.
Because right now we are acting like, oh, we only have this one option. We are, woe is us. Like, look what the US is doing to us. I mean, it's a big blow. We've been overly dependent and reliant on the US for a long time.
Yeah. And no one is saying to be completely go and change or look for other markets.
Completely,
still,
yes.
You do work with the US.
Of course.
But at the same time.
But we have options.
Yeah.
That's the point. The point is we have viable options. But right now they don't look like it because we have not invested in them. We have not explored them. So it just looks like, those maybe in decades to come. But that's not true because we have active networks. There are already a lot of informal trade happening. Some WhatsApp groups are like chambers of commerce when you see what's happening there. So what does it look like if we actually put a structure behind that to say, how do we activate our immigrant networks as trade channels to their respective countries? Because what that means is that we have as many options. Canada has as many trade options as countries represented in Canada.
Wow, that's mind-boggling how you put that. Because, if in Canada there's, let's say, immigrants from 100 countries, that means that those 100 countries, there's a potential way to enter those markets.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the biggest assets of being a country that has so many immigrants. Because if you are a country that has one kind of nation as the main nation, and you don't have too many immigrants, then you don't have the same opportunities as Canada has in terms of entering a new market.
You don't.
But you have to go and seek them. So let's say now that we're talking about this, maybe there will be some business owners that will say, okay, actually, that's a good idea. Let me talk to and see who is on. Let me talk to my HR team and see who are the immigrants that I have on the team in general. What would be their next steps? How should they approach and building those relationships to get to new markets? What would be a suggestion?
So first of all, if the owner of a company, how do they carry their staff along in general about the vision of the company? Because if you treat your staff as bottom feeders, right? Like if you're like, oh, we just tell them what to do. We don't need their insight. They don't need to know the direction of the company. How will they know when there's an opportunity they can present to you?
Yeah.
But if you carry your staff along, immigrant and non, to say, this is our dream. In the next 3 years, we want to enter new markets. And these are what the things we're doing already to be able to enter new markets. Or maybe your company is in trouble. You're like, oh, this one big customer canceled their arrangement with you. And now you're like, you don't know what to do. If your employees don't know that, how would you know that there's somebody on your team that still runs a business in India? His uncle is overseeing it for him. and they have like a consumer base that will buy your product. You wouldn't know that if you treat them as somebody that we have just done a favor by hiring. So if you hire immigrants, you're like, I'm just going to take a chance on this person and just hire them and see. Of course, you take a chance because you don't have their history.
But you take a chance on anyone.
On anyone. So, but you need to start looking at immigrant professionals as bigger than the one role you're filling. Because many people have strong connections. So there are strong networks here in Canada that have partnerships also in the home countries. And imagine what it looks like if you can have your employee as a channel for that. And talking to the immigrants themselves. So as an immigrant professional, you need to understand that your immigrantness is a value add. Imagine at your interview, you are able to let them know the kind of networks you have in your home country and how you can help with quicker user testing for some product. So user testing that takes, I don't know how long it would have taken here, but you're like, oh, I have like a group of friends or a group of a group back home that can easily test that product, that is the ideal user for that product. That is not even about spending money or anything. It's not really about buying something, but they took that load off you as a company and you don't have to worry about that because you have a network that has a user base that is different from the one you have around you. So if you're looking for diverse perspectives, diverse feedback into your product journey or whatever, you can tap into your immigrant networks, your immigrant employees. So as an immigrant professional, when you are doing your interview, when you are packaging yourself, presenting yourself, it's important that you start talking about being an immigrant as an asset.
And not just that you are you need any job kind of thing, right? Like you're bringing something to the table. You're bringing something very valuable to the table. And not just like you mentioned, having that initial base of to test the product, but also if, let's say, if there was a company here and they were selling something in Azerbaijan, where I'm from, maybe they will, the new contract with the company they never heard about. But they can ask me, for example, so have you heard about this company? And I might have heard about it and say, yes, I know them. They're quite respected back home. Or maybe it's the opposite, I would not deal with them.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's so much more that the immigrant can bring, as long as, I guess, the business owners are also curious. So curiosity should go both ways.
Oh, absolutely. And North America, Canada in particular, we're very conservative. And that doesn't serve us well in every way. And because we tend to just dance around the same things. Like if we've already established that, this is how we do it. Even our own products, most of Canadian healthcare products don't get certified in Canada until they have been in the US.
Yes.
So a Canadian innovator does something and Canada is like, Canada looks at it. It's like we're saying, go test it somewhere else. If someone else buys it, then I'll support it.
And it's not
we can't afford that.
100%. We should be the ones driving that change. And I see that quite a bit in tech, in a sense that, first of all, tech has evolved. Let's say if it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, tech was tech. But today you have so many different aspects. So it's clean tech, ag tech, med tech, and so on and so forth. But still, the same challenges is that the adoption comes from somewhere else. It's great. It's easy to start a company in Canada.
An investment, not just adoption.
Investment.
By the time it comes back to Canada, it's already been heavily diluted by US investors.
So it's not exactly a Canadian business anymore.
Exactly,
That's a challenge. But that's a way that the mentality has to change to be a bit more adventurous, let's say.
Yes. And another good thing also with so Canada as a country, we are naturally liked. So immigrants in Canada want to help Canada be better.
Yeah.
Because compared to some other countries, Canada is fair to immigrants. There are pathways. There are pathways to bring your parents. There is pathway for students to become a PR. That doesn't happen everywhere. So many immigrants appreciate being Canadians. So if there are ways to make Canada more prosperous, immigrant professionals want to do it.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, not all, but the majority.
For the most part,
Yeah.
yes. For the most part, there's a general goodwill towards Canada as a country. So if there are ways we can help, I mean, some of us are already doing it. We look at the system, we look at what we can fix, and we just go ahead and fix it. We don't wait until the government taps us. We don't wait until there's funding. We just step into it and fix it.
Yeah.
There are many more like us.
Many more. Many
Yeah.
more. And is that how you went to the journey of QM Consult then? In terms of, so from techies into tapping into immigrant networks and then building ways to help businesses go into Africa?
Yes. So Africa, so QM Consult is a boutique consulting firm. And our goal is really facilitating business between Canadian entities and African entities. And when I say Africa, that's like many countries, right? But because we have a strong base there, my business partner, Ebenezer, has lived and worked in about 14 African countries and built relationships there. And I am also originally from there. So we have very strong relationships. And so the goal there is when we will start looking at Africa as a business partner, not where we give aid.
Yeah.
Because the narrative has been shifting under our noses, but again, are we looking?
Exactly. We're looking at it.
Yeah. So when you talk about, say, the population, the average age in Africa is 19.
Really? 19?
19.
Wow.
So now
So it's a very young population.
very young population, and also very tech savvy, mobile first. Almost everybody has a mobile phone, and they do all the videos, all the creative stuff they do. Sometimes most people don't have more than a mobile phone and they're creating stuff. So there is a lot of potential for infrastructure development. There is a growing middle class. There are opportunities for clean energy. Sub-Saharan Africa has 60% of all the solar sources of the world, but gets only 2% of investment into clean energy, into solar.
Interesting.
So look at all those opportunities, the infrastructure development that's going to happen, investment in clean energy, the digital savviness of the population, the youthfulness of the population, the creativity of the people there. So the film industry, music industry, imagine what it could look like if there are partnerships with Canadian entities, bringing technology solutions, agriculture. I think the agriculture market in Africa is projected to be about $1 trillion by 2030 or so.
Wow.
Now, there's still a lot of wastage, a lot of inefficiencies, which means we can have Canadian technical companies coming in as partners for precision, for efficient supply chain, logistic routes. So there are so many opportunities there that if Canadian investors, Canadian companies will just start looking again at Africa, not just as a place where you send aid, but as people you do business with.
So not a lot of companies have dealt in Africa. So, people typically go to, let's say, Australia, Europe, or doing business, of course, the US, and I'm talking about Canadian businesses. A lot of the oil and gas companies, they go to the Middle East, for example. But if they're decided, because what you have mentioned right now, like that sounds very interesting and sounds like there's a lot of opportunities to do businesses in Africa, but they may not know how to do it. How should they start? What's the first step?
Like, honestly, that is exactly why QM Consult exists, because you need a facilitator. You need someone that understands the landscape, the cultural landscape, how things are done, and how to establish partnerships on the ground. So if a company wanted to, say, bid for some projects in Nigeria, they need a local partner. How would they know what local partner to go to, who to trust, who will vet it for them? So that's why companies like ours exist, to facilitate that. So we're helping build trust, because we're here in Canada. We understand the Canadian company. We understand what they are trying to accomplish. We understand the system they are coming from. And we also understand the system we're going into, so we can translate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
And
translate.
And translate is not about language.
It's not about language.
Yeah.
You can translate equivalences, regulatory, and what partnership will look like, what will work best. So, for example, when it comes to, say, technical products, if you're exporting your technical product, like software products, into Africa, you have to be ready to make it mobile first. So that's a knowledge that you need to understand.
What do you mean I make it mobile for, so that people can use it on the mobile phone instead of a computer?
Yeah. So if you roll something out and it's successful here as a web application, and it's successful in Canada, and you're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna roll that out to Africa, you might fail, because most people don't use laptops. They do most of their stuff on their phone. So is it mobile ready? Is it mobile responsive? Do you have offline access? Because you don't have internet everywhere. So if people are able to do some minimal work offline, then it gives you an edge. So if you have a way that you've done your business here and you think you're just going to replicate it in a new market because you got an opportunity for market entry, you might fail. Yeah. Because there are the little things that will make or mar the success of that product in this new market. And that's why we exist, to help facilitate that. So not just the connection to local partners or access to investors, but also understanding what works in what context, what industry. So we talk about Africa, there are 54 countries, right? Yeah. And with differing regulatory landscapes and differing population needs and population interest and all of that. So if you have a product and your goal is, I need a new market, we will help you to say, oh, with that kind of product, we think you should go to Uganda. But if it is this one, Ghana is better. So there's market intelligence that you also need. And so that's why we exist, to really make that transition possible and open that market entry opportunity.
And it's the same thing with Canada, right? Like Canada, when you look at the amount of provinces Canada has, each province is different.
Oh yeah.
So if you go entering the Canadian market, or if you're entering the US market, it's the big question is which state or which province do you start from? And the same here is Africa. People say, okay, Africa is one continent, so everything is the same. No, that's
absolutely not
misconception, right?
Yeah. But there are enablers, like the after agreement. It makes it easy for you. So if as a company you already made market entry into one country, if they are part of that after agreement, then it makes it easier for you to do work in the next country and the next and the next. So there are systems that are enabling that as well. And there's a Canada-Africa strategy that was recently launched earlier this year, which also, at least for the first time, there's an actual national strategy that Canada has in terms of relationship with Africa, both on the aid and trade side. So those are enablers. At least it's good to see that there are some structures in place that are encouraging these trade collaborations.
That's good. Slowly, these structures, these trade agreements will come into place and enable more and more trade diversifications for Canada.
Absolutely.
Because Canada has a lot to offer to the world. We've been so focused on one market, and hopefully that will kind of change a little bit, and the world will see what other good things Canada can bring to the table.
Especially our technical expertise. So Canada has one of the strongest leadership in AI, for example, with the institutes we have in Edmonton, the University of Alberta itself, AMI, the Alberta Machine Learning Institute, I think that's what it's called. So we have a strong expertise, strong technical expertise that we can ship, really.
Yeah.
So there are all these opportunities in Africa, for example, but they still need to be tweaked. There is a lot of interest in building gas infrastructure because, sometimes before you can go from dirty to clean, you first go cleaner, right? So going from PMS to focusing more on gas and using gas to generate more energy, electricity. The electricity need is huge.
Yep.
And there's a lot of focus has been on building decentralized off-grid solutions, not necessarily, mini grids, micro grids, not necessarily the big ginormous solutions. So there are pockets of opportunity here and there, but they might need technical expertise, which Canada is strong in. We have a lot of strength in technical solutions, in technical precision solutions. So, so that's a huge opportunity. Even in solar solutions, there are many Canadian companies are building solutions in battery storage. Battery, so you're building power, solar stuff. You need battery storage. Mining is another thing we didn't mention. So even as we transition to solar, to electric vehicles and all of that, we're gonna need all these minerals to build these solutions. So many of them come from places like Africa. So there's just so much, but we won't even be taking advantage if we don't start looking. And when I say taking advantage, I don't mean in the sense of
like the negative sense of taking. It's more about taking advantage of opportunities to work together.
Yes, absolutely.
But speaking about opportunities to work together, because like you facilitate mutual trade. But one thing I want to ask is usually we're talking about Canadian companies entering those new markets. But what should companies, let's say, from Africa consider when entering the Canadian market then?
Honestly, I'm finding that both usually kind of just happens together. Because giving an example of, what example can I give? Say there is a bid, an RFP is out for a clean energy, like a solar powered gas plant or something like that. And then there is a local African company that has to be the local representation, and then they need a Canadian partner.
Yeah.
So if you look at it in that way, the Canadian partner is going into Africa to do business, but they can partner and do that same thing elsewhere, in another country, or even back here in Canada. So it's usually bilateral. A lot of it is the flow it goes both ways, and there's also investment. So part of partnership is also capital injection. Many of these infrastructure projects, the African countries don't have the money to run them. And that's when China comes in with all those sometimes unfair terms. We know we trust Canada to do right by people, Canada's that's my bias.
Yep.
That's my bias, right? So that's an opportunity as well for Canadian investors to go in there. And then African businesses that are coming here, we have programs like Startup Visa program, bringing in businesses. And we have a lot of people, immigrants, that have businesses in their home countries. And as they're coming here, they're bringing it with them.
Yeah.
So they want to establish also parts of that business here. So that happens in all those ways where the immigrants that are coming in with their business, or somebody is coming in exactly because of to establish that business. So Canada has pathways for, I think there's an investor path as well. So, yeah.
A lot of opportunities.
A lot of opportunities. And because we are there in the middle acting as a bridge, we can help on that end as well.
Yeah.
We are well connected here. So no matter what the industry is, technology, energy, education, that's another great, not often thought about area. Because, we're talking about all this technology, hydrogen, battery power and all of that.
What's top
so
of
as
mind,
we are building these solutions, you need to build expertise, people that will maintain them. So there's the education piece. So Canadian institutions can partner. There have been a lot of that happening actually already. Germany partnering with Ghana on some hydrogen training. I can't remember if it was Ghana. I may be wrong on that. So those are opportunities also where Canadian education institutes can partner with African institutes to create modules and training around emerging technologies. That's an opportunity to
help kind of, some of the countries there, when the partnering up, kind of increase the knowledge base for their population as well. Kind of help the population go to become more knowledgeable.
Yeah. Yes. So help the population, helps build the expertise base for the technology itself. Because if a Canadian company goes in with their technology solution to partner with a Nigerian company, for example, and they did a project, who is maintaining it? Yeah. So maybe they'll maintain it for a while, but they probably don't want to stay forever.
Yeah, and it's going to be much more expensive.
Exactly. So then you need to build local expertise as well.
But also from an education point of view, it's also important because you're raising the next level of consumers. Let's say if a consumer is not educated in this product, you will never be able to sell it. However, once people understand, they're educated, they're having that kind of change some of the patterns, then there's more opportunities to sell your product to a different population base.
Yeah, totally.
But I cannot believe that we're already at the hour with me, to
be
be honest. Yeah. Time flies when you're enjoying this conversation. So one last question, and this is something that I enjoy as part of these episodes, is to end it with some kind of wisdom, some kind of motivation. As you yourself have been through the journey, and yours was quite long, as you mentioned, 3 years of self-discovery, it gets lonely at times. And what kind of motivation or some wisdom would you share with the immigrants going through their internal journeys? Maybe they're thinking about pivoting like yourself, reinventing journeys. What can you say?
I mean, first of all, it's much better now than it was 14 years ago when I came in. Now there are communities like Immigrant Techies Network and many more that are more available than it was before. When I came in, the solutions built for immigrants were not built by immigrants. They weren't any actually. So even though the people that built these things are trying to help, but they didn't understand the problem. They didn't understand the pain point. So now we have more people with lived experience building solutions. So take advantage of that. Even if it feels like you're alone, you're not. There are many more people feeling that same way, going through the same thing. And there are people like me, like us, that have actually curated resources and communities around those challenges. So you're not alone. It's challenging, but you're never alone. Secondly, if there is a problem that kind of just gnaws at you and just irks you, sometimes it's a calling that you need to step up and solve it. So don't look at yourself as a victim. Don't think that, oh, poor me, what am I going to do now? There are many ways to start solving a problem that does not require a lot of resources. You can start a podcast. You can start a blog post. You can start gathering people. You can start volunteering somewhere. So there is a lot of influence you have that you might not know if you are in that victim mindset.
So kind of take ownership of the problem and see what you can do to fix it.
So if there's a gap somewhere and it's irritating you, I bet there's something you can do about it.
Excellent suggestions. Well, thank you so much, Wunmi.
Thank
It was
you.
lovely
Thanks for
having you here.
me. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This
Thank
was
you.
fun.